Someone in your life is lying to you right now. Not about what you think, they're lying about reality itself. And the terrifying part of you already believes them. Most people go through entire relationships, romantic, professional, even friendships, without ever realizing what is being done to them. They walk away feeling broken, confused, ashamed. They think the problem is them. They never stop to ask why. This video is going to change that. But before we go further, I need to warn you. What you're about to hear might be uncomfortable. Because gaslighting doesn't just happen to weak people. It doesn't just happen in dramatic situations you see in movies. It happens to intelligent, emotionally aware, high-functioning people. People exactly like you. And there's a reason for that. A very specific, very calculated reason. We'll get to that. But first, destroy everything you think you know about this. Most people believe gaslighting is just lying. That's wrong. Lying tells you something false. Gaslighting makes you doubt your ability to know what is true. There is a difference so fundamental, so profound, that missing it is exactly how they want it. A liar changes the facts. A gaslighter changes you. When a liar succeeds, you believe a false thing. When a gaslighter succeeds, you no longer trust yourself. Your perception, your memory, your judgment, all of it becomes uncertain. And a person who doesn't trust themselves will go back to the gaslighter for answers every single time. That is the architecture of psychological control, and it is ancient. Machiavelli understood this long before anyone had a name for it. In The Prince, he wrote that the most powerful ruler is not the one who commands armies. It is the one who controls perception. Because a man who controls what you see controls what you do. Gaslighting is that principle applied to the most intimate corners of your life. Here's what most people miss, and this detail changes everything. Gaslighting is not always intentional. Some people do this unconsciously, driven by their own fear of accountability. Others do it with surgical precision, as a deliberate strategy. The behavior looks identical from the outside, which makes it even harder to identify, and even harder to escape. There's something else I'll reveal near the end of this video, something about why gaslighting works on the smartest people most effectively. Hold that thought. It matters. But right now, let's begin. The first weapon is this: rewriting history. You remember something clearly, a conversation, a promise, a moment that hurt you. And when you bring it up, the response is instant and absolute. That never happened. You're making things up. I never said that. Not a gentle correction. A complete erasure. The gaslighter does not say, "I remember it differently." They say your memory is wrong. Completely. Definitively. With a confidence that makes your certainty feel like arrogance. A woman named Sarah had been with her partner for 3 years. He had promised repeatedly that they would move closer to her family. She had made life decisions based on that promise, turned down job offers, stayed in an expensive city. When she finally brought it up directly, he looked at her like she was a stranger. "I never said that. You always do this. You hear what you want to hear." She started keeping notes after that. Not because she doubted herself, but because she already did. Here is what's happening psychologically. Memory is not a recording. It is reconstructed every time you access it. The gaslighter knows this, consciously or not. By asserting a version of events with absolute conviction, they introduce doubt into your reconstruction. Over time, their version begins to replace yours. Your mind, trying to make sense of two conflicting truths, chooses the one delivered with more authority. And they always deliver with authority. But the rewriting of history is just the beginning. Because once they've established that your memory cannot be trusted, they move to something more insidious. The second weapon is denying your emotions. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. "I was just joking." Why do you always make everything so dramatic? Notice what this does. It doesn't engage with what upset you. It attacks the fact that you are upset at all. The problem is not what happened. The problem is that you felt something about what happened. This is emotional invalidation used as a control mechanism, and it is devastatingly effective because most of us are already uncertain about our emotional responses. We have been told, since childhood, to be less emotional, less needy, less dramatic. The gaslighter weaponizes that pre-existing vulnerability. After enough repetitions, you stop trusting your feelings before you even express them. You pre-edit yourself. Maybe I am overreacting. Maybe this isn't worth bringing up. You become your own gaslighter. Ponder that for a moment, because it's not even the most disturbing part. The most disturbing part is that this process, this slow erosion of emotional self-trust, looks from the outside exactly like personal growth. To everyone around you, you seem calmer, more mature, less reactive. The gaslighter gets credit, you get quieter, and you never know what you lost. The third weapon is the pivot to your flaws. You raise a concern, they do not address it. Instead, within seconds, the conversation is about you, your insecurities, your past mistakes, your mental health, your history. Everything becomes evidence of why you cannot be trusted to perceive reality accurately. Of course you see it that way. You've always been paranoid. You're just like your mother. This is your anxiety talking. This tactic is called DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. It sounds clinical, but living inside it feels like being trapped in a room where every door you open leads back to the same room. Marcus was a senior manager at a successful company. His supervisor had been taking credit for his ideas in meetings. When Marcus finally addressed it, the conversation turned immediately to his communication style, his ambition, his attitude. By the end of the meeting, Marcus was apologizing. He left wondering if he was the problem. He stayed in that job for 2 more years. Few people realize this. The pivot to flaws works because it exploits one of humanity's deepest psychological needs, the need to be fair. You want to be reasonable. You want to consider all sides. And the gaslighter uses your fairness against you. The moment you start genuinely asking yourself, am I the problem? They've already won the exchange. But there exists something still darker happening beneath all of this. The fourth weapon is isolation, not always physical, often psychological. The gaslighter begins to position themselves as the only reliable narrator of your life. Your friends misunderstand you. Your family is too involved. Your therapist is putting ideas in your head. Your colleagues are jealous. The message, delivered subtly and consistently, is that the world cannot see you the way they see you. Only they truly understand you. This is not intimacy. It is a trap wearing intimacy's face. When your external reference points disappear, the people who remember who you were, who reflect back a version of you that contradicts the gaslighter's version, you are left with only one mirror, and that mirror is controlled by someone who needs you to look broken. The process usually takes months, sometimes years. It happens through small comments, not dramatic declarations. Your sister has always been jealous of you. Your friend Sarah seems like she's going through something, maybe give her space. I just worry your therapist is making you more anxious, not less. By the time the isolation is complete, it feels like your own choice. And here is where something important shifts. Something I promised to return to. Why do intelligent people fall hardest? This is the turning point. This is what most people never tell you. Intelligence is not protection from gaslighting. It is, in many ways, a greater vulnerability. Here is why. Intelligent people are better at constructing explanations. When something doesn't add up, their minds work harder to make it add up. They generate sophisticated rationalizations. They see multiple perspectives, simultaneously. They are trained to doubt their first instinct and analyze more carefully. Gaslighters instinctively, or deliberately, target this. They give the intelligent person enough ambiguity to keep analyzing, enough complexity to keep explaining. The intelligent person's greatest strength, their analytical mind, becomes the mechanism of their own entrapment. They are too smart to trust their gut, too fair to dismiss the other person's perspective, too self-aware to not consider that they might be wrong. The gaslighter doesn't need to be smarter than you. They just need you to be fairer than them. Let that settle. The fifth weapon is manufactured confusion. Gaslighters communicate in contradictions. They say one thing, then deny saying it. They set rules that change without announcement. They punish you for behaviors they previously encouraged. They reward you unpredictably. This is not chaos. It is strategy. In behavioral psychology, unpredictable reinforcement produces the strongest compulsive attachment. It is the same mechanism behind gambling addiction. You stay because you are always almost understanding, always almost figuring out the pattern. The clarity is always just one more conversation away. It never arrives. Elena had been trying to understand what made her partner angry for 4 years. She kept detailed mental notes. She changed her behavior systematically, but the rules kept shifting. What calmed him one week triggered him the next. She became a specialist in studying him, hypervigilant, exhausted, completely focused on decoding another person at the expense of knowing herself. That is not love. That is occupation. The sixth weapon is using love as leverage. I only do this because I care about you. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't bother. You don't know how much I've given up for you. Love in the gaslighter's hands becomes debt. Every act of kindness is an invoice. Every moment of tenderness is a credit to be withdrawn when compliance is needed. This makes the target deeply reluctant to name what is happening, because naming it feels like betraying someone who loves them, and the gaslighter knows this. They cultivate that reluctance deliberately, with warmth. The cruelty and the affection come from the same person in close succession so that you cannot separate them. You end up defending the person who is hurting you, sometimes loudly, sometimes to yourself. Ponder how many people you know who have done this. Ponder whether you have ever done this. The seventh weapon, and the deepest, is the slow replacement of your identity. This one takes time, but it is the final destination of everything we've discussed. Over months and years, the gaslighter builds a version of you. Not the version that reflects who you are, the version that serves their needs. You are told who you are so consistently, and the real you is challenged so relentlessly that the constructed version begins to feel more real. You stop doing things you used to love because you were never really good at them. You stop expressing opinions because you always take things too far. You stop seeing certain people because they're a bad influence. You dress differently. You talk differently. You want different things. None of it was your idea. And the devastating, almost incomprehensible part, when the relationship finally ends, if it ends, many survivors don't know who they were before. They have to excavate themselves like archaeologists, piecing together fragments of a person who was real before someone else decided they shouldn't be. Now, here is what Machiavelli would say, and what most self-help content will never tell you. Understanding gaslighting is not enough. Knowledge alone does not protect you. What protects you is this: a relationship with your own perception that is stronger than your relationship with anyone else's version of you. Not arrogance, not rigidity, but a quiet, unshakable commitment to your own experience as real data. Your memory is real data. Your feelings are real data. Your discomfort is real data. You are allowed to take them seriously without needing anyone's confirmation. The prince who knows he can be deceived becomes far harder to deceive, not because he trusts no one, but because he trusts himself first. The most radical act in the presence of a gaslighter is very simple. It is believing yourself. Before you leave this video, I want to ask you something, not to answer out loud, just to sit with. Think about the relationships in your life, past or present, where you consistently left conversations feeling more confused about yourself than when you entered them. Not all confusion is manipulation. Growth is sometimes uncomfortable. But there is a specific feeling, a familiar, recurring fog that follows genuine gaslighting. And if you know that feeling, you already know more than you're allowing yourself to admit. The question is not whether you were gaslit. The question is what you're going to do now that you know what it looks like.